Let's get more insight now on the tensions with John Park. He's the director of the Korea Working Group at Harvard University's Kennedy School. He joins us live from just outside of Boston. John, thanks for being on the program. Entire U.S. Senate coming to the White House. What will this accomplish, and how unprecedented is this?
So it is unprecedented. We haven't seen this type of presence in the White House where all 100 senators have been invited for this classified briefing. But in terms of the significance, it looks like there'll be more in terms of signaling to the American public, one of action by this new team in the White House, but also the notion that there are other options on the table that can be discussed very robustly. And here we're going to see, I think, through the days ahead, a lot of piecing together of what would have been discussed related to these military options.
Do you think this will actually accomplish anything, or is this meeting more of a show, sort of, rather than substance?
I think there are two pieces to this. One is the notion of signaling, a very important one. And as we just heard earlier, we had President Trump host the Security Council ambassadors as well. So that type of signaling both to domestic as well as international audiences, what the U.S. is trying to accomplish with respect to the unfolding issues related to the Korean Peninsula, the North Korean nuclear program, are part and parcel of these, I think, highly public and unprecedented type of rollout events.
John, what do these 100 senators want to hear from this administration when it comes to how to resolve the issue with DPRK?
So for the senators, there is a lot of interest in hearing more about what has recently been unveiled as the Trump administration's North Korea policy. We now know the name of it. It's called maximum pressure and engagement. So for the senators, they want to hear the details. Up till now, we've seen a lot of maneuvering related to either the threat of the use of some of the tactics embedded in this policy or the actual use of some of these policy tools. But now I think the senators want to see what the game plan is.
So maximum pressure and engagement, that doesn't sound as provocative, as confrontational as the tone we've heard coming from this administration.
I think the tone right now is actually coming from both sides, both from the North Korean and the U.S. side. In many respects, it's a feeling out of the new type of leadership structures. On the U.S. side, there's an effort to try to understand what's happening. This is a new team. There's a lot of learning on the job. We're just approaching the 100-day mark, so these are early days. And on the North Korean side, I think it's this notion of trying to signal that their primary deterrent in terms of their self-defense vis-a-vis South Korea and the United States are the artillery. And I think that was a big part of the show of force on the North Korean side recently.
John, what is interesting to me is provocative words and rhetoric from DPRK is certainly nothing new. We've seen it year after year, time after time. What is new is a new administration in Washington who seems to want to resolve this conflict one way or another. Does that concern you in any way?
In the beginning, there's always concern. Again, the notion of learning on the job, and there's always the risk of miscalculation. But we've actually seen some hedging. In the meeting with the UN Security Council representatives, President Trump was talking about additional sanctions and getting those ready if North Korea were to do another nuclear test, another ballistic missile test. So all options truly do look like they're on the table. But right now, I think the newest one for this team in Washington are the military options. And that's why I think we're hearing most amount of press, because the team has been talking about those options in more detail and very publicly.
China has been pushing for negotiations, for dialogue. Do you see that happening anytime soon?
Well, there is hope that there could be some discussions about a freeze where the parties come to the table and discuss what it would take for the North Koreans to freeze their nuclear weapons program. So in that vein, I think we can potentially see some support from the Chinese side looking at an effort to get those discussions going. But right now, we're in a cycle where the tensions, because of regularly scheduled military exercises, big anniversaries, I think when we get away from this time period, there might be some room for these type of negotiations to be fully explored.
All right, John Park, thank you so much.